In the northeastern Iranian city of Mashhad, a place of deep spiritual significance, a story began in 1939 that would reshape the course of a nation. This is the story of Ali Khamenei. Born into a modest and deeply religious family, his father, a respected cleric, and his mother, a devout woman, created a home where faith was not just practiced, but lived. Young Ali grew up in the shadow of the magnificent Imam Reza Shrine, one of the holiest sites in Shia Islam. This environment wasn't just a backdrop, it was the very air he breathed, shaping his identity from his earliest days. His family's circumstances were humble, often facing financial hardship, which instilled in him a first-hand understanding of the struggles of ordinary people. This upbringing, steeped in both piety and poverty, would become a foundational element of his worldview, influencing the path he would eventually choose. His formal education began like that of many boys in his time, but his intellectual curiosity and spiritual inclination soon led him down a more specialized path. He started his religious studies at the seminary in Mashhad, immersing himself in the classical Islamic sciences. He excelled in his studies, quickly mastering Arabic, jurisprudence, and theology. But Mashhad, as important as it was just the beginning. To truly deepen his knowledge, he knew he had to go to the heart of Shia learning, the city of Qom. In 1957, he made the journey, entering a vibrant intellectual world buzzing with theological debate and scholarly pursuit. It was in Qom where his mind was sharpened and his vision began to take shape. He studied under some of the most brilliant clerical minds of the generation, but one teacher would have an influence far beyond the classroom. That teacher was Ruhollah Khomeini. More than just a scholar, Khomeini was a magnetic figure with a radical vision for the role of religion in society and politics. Attending Khomeini's lectures was a transformative experience for the young Khomeini. Khomeini wasn't just teaching Islamic law, he was challenging the very legitimacy of the ruling monarchy, the Shah's regime. He spoke of social justice, of resisting foreign influence, and of a government guided by Islamic principles. This was the birth of a powerful political ideology centered on the concept of Vilayat-e-Faqih, or the guardianship of the Islamic Jew. This principle argued that in the absence of the hidden imam, the most qualified religious scholar should lead the nation. For Khomeini, and many of his peers, this was a revolutionary idea. It provided a theological framework for political action, transforming them from quiet scholars into dedicated activists. The bond formed between teacher and student in the lecture halls of Qom would become a cornerstone of the future Islamic Republic. The seeds of activism planted in Qom soon blossomed into open opposition against the Shah's government. The 1960s were a period of intense political turmoil in Iran. Khomeini, now a committed follower of Khamenei, became an active participant in the burgeoning revolutionary movement. He was no longer just a student of theology, he was a messenger, carrying Khomeini's teachings and political statements across the country. His sermons became powerful platforms for political dissent, blending religious scripture with sharp critiques of the regime's corruption, its alignment with Western powers, and its secularizing policies. This activism came at a high price. His passionate and defiant words did not go unnoticed by the Shah's dreaded secret police, the Savak. The cycle of arrest began. He was detained, interrogated, and imprisoned multiple times. Each stint in prison, however, seemed to strengthen his resolve rather than break it. His commitment to the cause only deepened. The regime's response escalated. Seeing him as a persistent and influential agitator, they decided imprisonment wasn't enough. Exile became the new tool of suppression. Khomeini was forcibly sent to remote and isolated parts of Iran, far from the centers of political activity. The goal was to silence his voice and sever his connections with the growing network of revolutionaries. But this strategy backfired. In these small towns and villages, he didn't just quietly serve his sentence. He connected with the local populations, continued his teachings, and organized underground resistance cells. He turned his punishment into an opportunity, expanding the revolutionary network into the far-flung corners of the country. This period of hardship and isolation forged him into a seasoned and resilient political organizer, preparing him for the monumental events that were on the horizon. His reputation grew as a steadfast and courageous cleric, a man who had sacrificed his freedom for his beliefs. Throughout this entire journey, from the seminary classrooms to the prison cells and places of exile, one principle remained his guiding star. Velayat-e Faqih, it was more than just a political theory. It was the core of his identity as a revolutionary. He saw it as the divine solution to the injustices plaguing his country. For him, the leadership of a just and knowledgeable Islamic jurist was the only way to protect Iran's independence, restore its Islamic identity, and ensure social justice for the poor and disenfranchise the very people he had grown up amongst. This belief wasn't an abstract concept. It was a deeply personal conviction, honed through years of study and tested in the crucible of political struggle. He dedicated his life to articulating, defending, and ultimately implementing this vision. This connection between his religious education and his political ideology is the key to understanding his life's trajectory. When the Iranian Revolution exploded in 1978 and 1979, Khamenei was perfectly positioned to play a leading role. His years of activism, his unwavering loyalty to Khomeini, and his reputation as a persecuted cleric had earned him immense credibility. He was not a newcomer who jumped on the bandwagon. He was one of the architects. As the Shah's regime crumbled, Khomeini returned from exile, and Khamenei was immediately appointed to key positions in the new revolutionary government. He served on the Revolutionary Council, the body that steered the country in the chaotic early days. He became the Friday prayer leader of Tehran, a hugely influential post that gave him a national platform to communicate the revolution's message directly to the people every week. His sermons were a mix of spiritual guidance and political direction, helping to shape public opinion and consolidate the new Islamic Republic. He also took on critical military and security roles. As a deputy minister of defense and a commander in the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, he was deeply involved in defending the revolution from both internal and external threats. This was especially crucial during the Iran-Iraq War, a brutal 8-year conflict that tested the new republic to its limits. He frequently visited the front lines, wearing military fatigues over his clerical robes, a powerful symbol of the fusion of religion and state. This experience gave him an intimate understanding of military affairs and national security that would prove invaluable later in his career. In 1981, his journey took another dramatic turn when he survived an assassination attempt that left his right arm permanently injured. Later that same year, following the assassination of President Muhammad Ali, Khomeini was elected as the third president of Iran, a position he would hold for 2 terms. As president, he presided over the country during the darkest days of the war and the difficult period of post-war reconstruction. He worked to manage the economy, navigate complex foreign policy challenges, and solidify the institutions of the Islamic Republic. Throughout his presidency, he remained a close and trusted confidant of Ayatollah Khomeini. When Khomeini passed away in 1989, the nation was plunged into uncertainty. The question of who could possibly fill the shoes of the revolution's founder was on everyone's mind. The assembly of experts, the clerical body responsible for choosing the supreme leader, convened. In a decision that surprised many, they chose Ali Khamenei. His political experience as president, his deep revolutionary credentials, and his close relationship with Khomeini were all key factors. At the age of 50, he ascended to the most powerful position in Iran, becoming the second supreme leader of the Islamic Republic. From his birth in a humble home in Mashhad to his rise to the pinnacle of power, the life of Ali Khamenei is a story woven from threads of faith, scholarship, and revolutionary struggle. It's a journey that mirrors the history of modern Iran itself, a nation grappling with tradition and modernity, faith and politics, revolution and governance. His early religious education provided the intellectual and spiritual foundation, while his political activism against the Shah forged him into a hardened revolutionary leader. The principle of Velayat-e Faqih served as the ideological bridge, connecting his clerical training to his political destiny. Understanding this journey, from its modest beginnings to its dramatic heights, is essential to understanding the man who has shaped Iran for over 3 decades and continues to be one of the most significant figures on the world stage. Thank you for watching. If you found this video informative, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the figures and events that shape our world. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. In the heart of the Islamic Republic of Iran, one figure has stood as the ultimate authority for over 3 decades. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. His journey from a revolutionary activist to the supreme leader is a story of political maneuvering, unwavering conviction, and the shaping of a modern theocracy. How did this man, who wasn't initially the most senior cleric, ascend to a position of absolute power. Today, we're diving deep into the life and rise of Ali Khamenei. To understand Khamenei, we have to go back to the seismic event that redefined Iran. The 1979 revolution. Before the revolution, Khomeini was a committed and active follower of Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, the movement's charismatic leader. Born in Mashhad in 1939 to a clerical family, he was immersed in religious studies from a young age. By the 1960s and 70s, he had become a prominent voice against the Shah's regime. His sermons were fiery, his writings were banned, and his revolutionary activities led to multiple arrests and periods of exile by the Shah's secret police, the Savak. He wasn't just a theorist, he was on the front lines, organizing protests and disseminating Khomeini's teachings. When the revolution finally triumphed in February 1979, Khomeini was a well-known and trusted figure within Khomeini's inner circle, ready to help build the new Islamic Republic from the ground up. He was one of the founding members of the Islamic Republican Party, the political vehicle that would soon dominate the post-revolutionary landscape. His role during this chaotic period was crucial, helping to consolidate power and lay the ideological foundations of the new state. With the Shah gone, the new republic needed leaders. Khomeini's loyalty and revolutionary credentials quickly propelled him into key positions. He was appointed by Khomeini to the Revolutionary Council, a powerful body that governed Iran in the immediate aftermath of the revolution. Soon after, he became a member of parliament, representing Tehran. But perhaps his most influential early role was as Tehran's Friday prayer imam. This wasn't just a religious post, it was a powerful political platform. Every week, from the heart of the capital, his sermons reached millions, allowing him to shape public opinion, rally support for the new government, and denounce its enemies, both foreign and domestic. He used this pulpit to explain the principles of the revolution and solidify Khomeini's vision of Vilayati, Faqih, or the guardianship of the Islamic jurist. His powerful oratory skills and his close connection to Khomeini cemented his status as a rising star in the new establishment. He was articulate, politically astute, and fiercely dedicated to the cause, qualities that did not go unnoticed by the supreme leader. In 1981, Khomeini's career took another dramatic turn. Following the assassination of President Mohammad Ali Rajai, Iran needed a new leader to navigate one of its most perilous periods. Khomeini was elected as the third president of the Islamic Republic. His presidency, which would last for 2 terms until 1989, was defined by immense challenges. Just weeks into his first term, he himself became the target of an assassination attempt. A bomb, concealed in a tape recorder placed in front of him during a press conference, exploded, severely injuring his arm, vocal cords, and lungs. The attack left his right arm permanently paralyzed, a visible symbol of his sacrifice for the revolution. This event only bolstered his public image as a resilient and dedicated leader. The most significant challenge of his presidency, however, was the grueling Iran-Iraq War. For 8 long years, Khomeini was a wartime president, overseeing the country's defense and managing the home front. He worked closely with the military and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, forging relationships that would prove vital later in his career. His leadership during this brutal conflict, a period of immense national sacrifice, further solidified his position at the center of the Iranian state. He navigated the immense pressures of war, while also managing a turbulent domestic political scene, demonstrating a capacity for statecraft that would define his future. While Khomeini was a powerful political figure, his religious rank was a point of contention for his future ascent. In the Shia clerical hierarchy, a supreme leader is expected to be a Maria, or a source of emulation, the highest level of religious authority. In the 1980s, Khomeini was a Hoj, a mid-ranking cleric, not an Ayatollah, let alone a grand Ayatollah. However, politics often finds a way. Throughout his presidency, his allies worked to bolster his religious credentials. He was increasingly referred to as an Ayatollah in state media, a promotion and title that was more political than theological at first. His supporters in the clerical establishment and in powerful institutions like the IRGC began to champion him. Key political alliances were crucial. He had a strong relationship with Akbar Hashemi Rafsanjani, then the powerful Speaker of Parliament. This political duo was instrumental in navigating the complex post-Khomeini. When Khomeini passed away in 1989, the Assembly of Experts, the clerical body responsible for choosing the next supreme leader, faced a critical decision. In an infamous session, Rafsanjani argued forcefully for Khomeini's suitability, even sharing a personal anecdote about Khomeini's own endorsement of him. The constitution was swiftly amended to remove the requirement for the supreme leader to be a Marija. In a move that surprised many observers, the Assembly of Experts voted to elect Ali Khamenei as the second supreme leader of the Islamic Republic. His political influence had successfully paved the way for his ultimate religious and political authority, from a young revolutionary activist imprisoned by the Shah to the most powerful man in Iran. Ali Khomeini's journey is a masterclass in political survival and strategic consolidation of power. His early role in the 1979 revolution established his credentials. His influential positions as Friday prayer imam and a Tudor wartime president built his political base and national profile. And his carefully managed ascent within the clerical hierarchy, supported by powerful allies and institutional backing, cleared the path for his ultimate leadership. Upon becoming supreme leader in 1989, he set about cementing his authority. He gradually built a deep network of loyalists within every pillar of the state: the judiciary, the armed forces, particularly the IRGC, and the vast economic foundations known as BUN. Over the decades, he has navigated internal political factionalism, economic sanctions, and widespread public protests, all while maintaining a firm grip on power and shaping Iran's domestic and foreign policy according to his revolutionary vision. His story is not just the biography of a man. It is the story of the Islamic Republic itself, a narrative of ideology, power, and perseverance that continues to shape the Middle East and the world today. Thank you so much for watching. What part of Khomeini's rise do you find most fascinating? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into history and politics, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more. See you in the next video. The year is 1989 on June 3rd. The founder of the Islamic Republic of Iran, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, passes. His death creates an immense power vacuum. The nation holds its breath, wondering who could possibly fill his shoes. Khomeini had been more than a political leader. He was a revolutionary icon, a charismatic figure who commanded the loyalty of millions. The question on everyone's mind was, who comes next? The responsibility fell to a body known as the Assembly of Experts. This group of 88 theologians, elected by the public, was tasked with choosing the next supreme leader. Their deliberations were intense and shrouded in secrecy. The most obvious successor, Ayatollah Hossein Ali Montaseri, had been designated as Khomeini's heir years earlier. However, he had fallen out of favor after criticizing the regime's human rights record, particularly the mass execution of political prisoners in 1988. Khomeini had publicly disowned him just months before his death, effectively ending his chances. With Montaseri out of the picture, the assembly was in a difficult position. They needed a candidate who could command respect, navigate the treacherous waters of Iranian politics, and uphold the principles of the revolution. Several senior clerics were considered, but none had the complete support of the key political factions. The country couldn't afford a prolonged period of uncertainty. A swift, decisive choice was critical. Then, a surprising name emerged from the discussions: Sayyid Ali Khamenei. At the time, Khamenei was the president of Iran, a position he had held since 1981. He was a known quantity, a loyal disciple of Khomeini, and a veteran of the revolution. He had survived an assassination attempt in 1981 that left his right arm permanently paralyzed, a visible symbol of his sacrifice for the cause. But there was a major hurdle. Khomeini was not a Marija or a source of emulation, a grand Ayatollah with the highest level of religious authority. The constitution at the time stipulated that the supreme leader must be a Marija. This is where a pivotal moment in modern Iranian history unfolds. A video from the Assembly of Experts closed-door session, later released, shows the discussion. Akbar Hashemi Rafsanjani, a powerful and influential figure who was then the Speaker of Parliament, made a compelling case for Khomeini. He recalled a conversation where Khomeini himself had supposedly endorsed Khomeini as a worthy successor. Rafsanjani argued that in this critical moment, political acumen and revolutionary credentials were more important than the highest religious rank. The assembly was persuaded. They voted to amend the constitution, lowering the religious requirement for the supreme leader. It was a pragmatic move, a political solution to a theological problem. Following this, Ali Khamenei was formally elected as the second supreme leader of Iran. Reports from the session describe Khamenei's reaction as one of reluctance and humility. He initially protested, claiming he was not qualified for such a monumental role, both religiously and personally. He reportedly shed tears and expressed deep reservations about accepting the position. Whether this was genuine modesty or a calculated political gesture, we can only speculate. But his initial portrayal was that of a man thrust into a position he did not seek. A servant of the revolution, answering a call to duty. This narrative was crucial in the early days of his leadership. It helped to smooth over the controversy surrounding his relatively junior clerical status and presented him as a reluctant, dutiful successor rather than an ambitious power seeker. Once in power, Khamenei faced the immense challenge of consolidating his authority. He was stepping into the shadow of a giant. Khamenei's authority was personal and charismatic. Khamenei's had to be institutional. He wasn't a revered grand Ayatollah, and he didn't have the same popular adoration that Khomeini enjoyed. He was seen more as a political insider, a manager, rather than a spiritual guide for the nation. Many senior clerics in the holy city of Qom were far more learned in Islamic jurisprudence than he was. To overcome this, Khamenei embarked on a systematic process of strengthening the office of the supreme leader. He understood that his power would not come from religious charisma alone, but from his control over the state's most powerful institutions. The Constitution already granted the supreme leader immense powers. He is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, including the regular army and, crucially, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, Corps, or IRGC. He appoints the head of the judiciary, the directors of state radio and television, and the members of the Guardian Council, a body that vets laws and election candidates. Khamenei used these powers strategically. He began by placing loyalists in key positions across the military, intelligence services, and judiciary. He focused particularly on the IRGC. Over the years, he cultivated a deep and symbiotic relationship with the guards. He empowered them, not just militarily, but also economically. The IRGC expanded into a massive conglomerate with vast business interests in construction, telecommunications, and energy. This made them a formidable force, deeply invested in the survival of the system and fiercely loyal to Khamenei as its protector. He also worked to build up his own religious credentials. Shortly after becoming leader, his office began promoting him as an Ayatollah. His supporters worked to create a network of followers and representatives, building the infrastructure of Amaria. Over time, through state media and official pronouncements, his religious authority was solidified in the public consciousness, even if it remained a point of contention among some senior Shia clerics. Khamenei's most significant long-term project was the institutionalization of the concept of Velayat-e Faqih, or the guardianship of the Islamic jurist. This was Khomeini's core political theory, which grants a senior cleric ultimate authority over the state. While Khomeini embodied this principle through his personal charisma, Khomeini turned it into a rigid, bureaucratic system. He established a vast network of representatives, embedding his influence in universities, government ministries, and even military barracks. This network, known as the Bati Robari or Leader's Office, became the true center of power in Iran. It's a sprawling, semi-secretive organization with thousands of staff, managing everything from Khomeini's political directives and economic interests to his religious and cultural messaging. Through this office, he could bypass the elected government, the presidency, and the parliament and implement his policies directly. This created what many analysts call a dual state in Iran. The formal elected institutions and the deep, unelected state controlled by the supreme leader. Under Khamenei, the supreme leader's office transformed from a position defined by one man's revolutionary charisma into a durable, all-encompassing institution. He didn't just inherit the role. He fundamentally reshaped it to fit his own style of leadership, less populist, more institutional, less charismatic, more bureaucratic. He ensured that the supreme leader was not just the final arbiter in disputes, but the active driver of the state's long-term strategy, controlling the levers of hard power, the military, the judiciary, and the economy. This consolidation of power was not without its challenges. Throughout his rule, Khomeini has faced opposition from reformist movements, widespread public protests, and internal political rivalries. He has navigated these challenges by skillfully balancing factions, using the security forces to suppress dissent, and always maintaining the ultimate loyalty of the IRGC. His journey from a mid-ranking cleric and political insider to one of the most powerful and enduring leaders in the Middle East is a story of political survival, strategic consolidation, and the systematic construction of an unshakable, institutional power base. He has outlasted multiple U.S. presidents and navigated decades of international pressure and domestic turmoil, cementing his control and shaping the Islamic Republic in his own image for over 3 decades. Ali Khamenei's rise to supreme leader in 1989 was a pivotal moment for Iran. Unlike his charismatic predecessor, Ruhollah Khomeini, Khamenei had to build his authority from a position of relative weakness. This journey saw him systematically centralize power, creating a state where his influence permeates every level of governance. How did he do it? By navigating intricate power struggles, controlling a formidable security apparatus, and managing waves of popular dissent. This is the story of how one man consolidated absolute control over a nation of over 80 million people. Let's start with the power tussles. One of the most significant challenges to Khamenei's authority came from within the system itself. During the presidency of Mohammad Khatami from 1997 to 2005, Khatami, a reformist, was elected on a wave of popular support for greater social freedoms and democratic reforms. His agenda was a direct challenge to the conservative establishment. This set the stage for a classic power struggle. Khatami's government pushed for a more open society, a dialogue of civilizations abroad, and a reduction in the power of unelected bodies. But Khamenei, as the supreme leader, held the ultimate authority. He controlled the judiciary, the military, and the Guardian Council, which vets laws and candidates. Throughout Khatami's presidency, these institutions consistently blocked reformist legislation. Newspapers were shut down, activists were jailed, and Khatami's initiatives were systematically dismantled. This wasn't just a political disagreement. It was a fundamental clash over the future direction of the Islamic Republic. Khamenei skillfully used his constitutional powers to outmaneuver the elected government, demonstrating that no matter who won the popular vote, real power resided with him. This period was crucial because it sent a clear message. The reformist path had its limits, and those limits were defined by the supreme leader. Of course, managing political rivals is one thing, but managing the street is another. Khamenei's rule has been marked by several major waves of protests, each testing his grip on power. The first major test was the student unrest of 1999. It started after a pro-reform newspaper was shut down, leading to a peaceful student sit-in at Tehran University. The situation escalated dramatically when hardline vigilantes and security forces raided the student dormitories, leading to violent clashes. For the first time since the revolution, a significant segment of the population that had grown up under the Islamic Republic was openly defying the state. Khamenei's response was a mix of initial condemnation of the violence, followed by a firm crackdown on the He framed the movement as a foreign-backed plot to destabilize the country, a narrative that would become a standard response to future protests. The 1999 unrest was a wake-up call, showing the deep-seated frustrations within Iranian society. 10 years later, in 2009, an even bigger challenge emerged: the Green Movement. Following the disputed presidential election that declared Mahmoud Ahmadinejad the winner, millions of Iranians poured into the streets. They believed that the election was stolen from reformist candidate Mir Hossein Mousavi. This was not just a student protest. It involved a broad cross-section of society. The scale was unprecedented. Chants of "Where is my vote?" echoed through cities across Iran. Khamenei's response was unequivocal. After initially calling for calm, he delivered a decisive speech firmly backing Ahmadinejad's victory and warning protesters to get off the streets. He declared any further demonstrations illegal. The crackdown that followed was brutal. The securities forces, led by the besieged militia, crushed the movement with force. Thousands were arrested, and many were killed. The Green Movement was a turning point. It exposed a deep rift between the state and a large portion of its citizens, and showed Khamenei's willingness to use overwhelming force to maintain control. Then came 2022. The death of Mahsa Amini in the custody of the morality police ignited the woman, life, freedom movement. This was different. It was led by women and young people, fueled by decades of frustration over social restrictions, economic hardship, and a lack of personal freedom. The protests were decentralized, leaderless, and spread like wildfire across the country, from major cities to small towns. The slogans directly challenged the system, and, in Manikas's Khamenei himself, the state's response was familiar but even more intense. A violent crackdown was launched, with security forces using live ammunition against thousands were arrested, and hundreds were killed. The internet was severely restricted to prevent the flow of information. Despite the brutal suppression, the woman, life, freedom movement fundamentally shifted the conversation in Iran. It showed that the desire for change was more widespread and defiant than ever before. For Khamenei, it was the latest, and perhaps most profound challenge to the legitimacy of his rule. So, how does he manage to suppress these powerful movements? The key lies in his absolute control over the security apparatus. At the heart of this apparatus is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC. The IRGC is not just a military force, it's a parallel state. It has its own army, navy, and air force, and it controls a vast economic empire spanning construction, telecommunications, and energy. It was created to protect the Islamic Republic from internal and external threats, and its loyalty is directly to the supreme leader, not the elected government. When protests erupt, it's the IRGC and its volunteer militia, the Basij, that are deployed to restore order. They are highly ideological, well-equipped, and trained for urban suppression. Over the years, Khamenei has systematically empowered the IRGC, placing its former commanders in key political and economic positions. This ensures that the most powerful institution in the country is completely loyal to him. This control over the instruments of coercion is the ultimate backstop for his power. When political maneuvering fails, the IRGC steps in. But force alone cannot sustain a regime. The economy plays a crucial role. Under Khamenei, Iran's economy has been a story of immense challenges. Decades of international sanctions, particularly over Iran's nuclear program, have crippled the country's ability to trade and access global financial markets. This has led to chronic inflation, high unemployment, and a declining standard of living for ordinary Iranians. But the problems aren't just external. Internal mismanagement and corruption are rampant. State-controlled foundations, known as PAN and IRGC-affiliated companies, dominate the economy, often operating with little transparency or accountability. These entities, loyal to the supreme leader, benefit from state contracts and crowd out the private sector. This system creates a patronage network that rewards loyalty but stifles economic growth and innovation. The economic pain felt by the population is a major driver of unrest. Every major protest wave in the last decade has had a strong economic component. People are not just protesting for political freedom, but for a better life, for jobs, and for an end to the corruption that they see draining their country's wealth. So, when you put it all together, a clear picture emerges. Ali Khamenei has consolidated his power through a multi-pronged strategy. He outmaneuvered political rivals like Khatami, establishing the supremacy of his office over elected institutions. He has weathered massive waves of popular dissent, from the student protests of 1999 to the Green Movement in 2009, and the Woman, Life, Freedom Movement in 2022. By using a carefully calibrated and often brutal security response, the IRGC acts as his Praetorian Guard, a loyal and powerful force ready to crush any challenge to his rule. And while the economy falters under sanctions and mismanagement, the system of patronage controlled by his office ensures the loyalty of key elites. It's a system built on a delicate balance of ideological control, political maneuvering, and raw power. The result is a state where one man's authority is absolute, yet constantly tested by a population yearning for change. The story of Ali Khamenei is Iran is a masterclass in the consolidation of power in the modern world. Thanks for watching. If you found this analysis interesting, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into global politics and history. See you next time. From the very beginning of the Islamic Republic, a clear and unwavering foreign policy stance was established, one that has defined its relationship with the world for decades. This policy is built on a foundation of deep-seated hostility towards the United States, often referred to as the Great Satan, and Israel, the Zionist entity. This isn't just political rhetoric. It is a core ideological principle that has been consistently articulated by its leaders since 1979. Archival footage from the early days of the revolution shows massive crowds chanting anti-American slogans, a sentiment echoed by the country's leadership in powerful speeches that have been broadcast to the nation and the world. This ideological opposition has shaped almost every foreign policy decision, creating a fundamental and often unbridgeable divide with the West. It's the lens through which Iran views global politics, influencing its alliances, its military strategy, and its ambitions in the Middle East. This ideological stance isn't just talk. It is backed by a strategy of building and supporting what Iran calls the axis of resistance. This is a network of state and non-state actors across the Middle East who share, to varying degrees, Iran's opposition to the United States and Israel. The most prominent member of this axis is Hezbollah in Lebanon. Since the 1980s, Iran has provided Hezbollah with extensive funding, advanced training, and sophisticated weaponry, transforming it into a powerful military and political force that acts as a significant deterrent against Israel. This support has allowed Hezbollah to become one of the most formidable non-state armies in the world, essentially serving as an extension of Iran's own military reach, right on Israel's northern border. Beyond Lebanon, Iran's support extends to Palestinian groups, most notably Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad in the Gaza Strip. While the relationship has had its ups and downs, particularly due to sectarian differences, Iran has consistently supplied these groups with financial aid, weapons, and technology, especially for rocket manufacturing. This enables them to continue their conflict with Israel, keeping pressure on another one of Iran's primary adversaries. By supporting these groups, Iran ensures that the conflict remains active on multiple fronts, distracting and draining the resources of its regional rivals without having to engage in direct, conventional warfare itself. It's a strategy of asymmetric warfare, leveraging partners to achieve its geopolitical goals. The strategy of the axis of resistance became even more apparent following the turmoil of the Arab Spring and the rise of ISIS. In Iraq, Iran moved decisively to support various Shia militias, known collectively as the Popular Mobilization Forces, or PMF. These groups were instrumental in the fight against ISIS, but they also significantly expanded Iran's influence within Iraq's political and security structures. Many of these militias are fiercely loyal to Iran's supreme leader, giving Tehran a powerful lever to influence Iraqi politics and counter American presence in the country. This has effectively created a land bridge of influence stretching from Tehran all the way to the Mediterranean. A similar story unfolded in Syria. When the Syrian civil war erupted, Iran saw the potential collapse of its key Arab ally, the Assad regime, as a catastrophic strategic loss. It intervened massively, sending military advisors from its elite Quds force, along with thousands of fighters from Hezbollah and Shia militias from Iraq and Afghanistan. This intervention was crucial in turning the tide of the war in favor of Bashar al-Assad. For Iran, preserving the Assad government wasn't just about saving an ally. It was about securing that vital land corridor to Lebanon and maintaining a critical forward base for its operations against Israel. Syria became the central battleground for the axis of resistance, a place where Iran could project its power and solidify its regional dominance. In Yemen, Iran's involvement has followed a similar, though more distant, pattern. It has provided support to the Houthi movement, also known as Ansar. While the extent of this support is debated, it includes weapons, training, and strategic advice. By backing the Houthis in their conflict against the Saudi-led coalition, Iran has managed to bog down its main regional rival, Saudi Arabia, in a costly and protracted war. The conflict in Yemen serves as another front in the broader Cold War between Tehran and Riyadh. For a relatively low investment, Iran has been able to inflict significant economic and military strain on the Saudis, demonstrating its ability to challenge its rivals far from its own borders, using local partners to fight on its behalf. At the heart of the international community's concerns about Iran is its controversial nuclear program. For decades, Iran has insisted that its program is purely for peaceful energy purposes, a right it holds as a signatory to the Non-Proliferation Treaty. However, its history of secrecy, a lack of transparency with international inspectors from the IAEA, and the development of sensitive technologies like uranium enrichment have fueled deep suspicions in the West and among its regional rivals, particularly Israel and Saudi Arabia. They fear that Iran is secretly pursuing the capability to build a nuclear weapon, which would dramatically alter the balance of power in the Middle East and could trigger a regional arms race. This suspicion has led to crippling international sanctions imposed by the United Nations and unilaterally by countries like the United States. These sanctions have targeted Iran's oil exports, its financial system, and key industries, inflicting severe damage on its economy and causing hardship for its people. In an attempt to resolve this standoff, years of tense negotiations culminated in the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA. Under this landmark deal, Iran agreed to strict limitations on its nuclear activities and to intrusive international inspections. In return, the major world powers agreed to lift the sanctions. For a time, it seemed like a diplomatic breakthrough had been achieved. However, the JCPOA was always fragile. In 2018, the United States, under a new administration, unilaterally withdrew from the agreement, calling it a terrible deal, and reimposed its harshest sanctions. In response, Iran began to gradually walk back its own commitments, increasing its uranium enrichment to levels far beyond what the deal permitted and restarting activities at once mothballed facilities. The nuclear program was back at the center of a major international crisis. This cycle of sanctions, negotiations, and brinkmanship highlights the central dilemma. Iran sees its nuclear program as a guarantor of its sovereignty and a vital deterrent, while much of the world sees it as the single greatest threat to regional stability. All these elements, ideological hostility, the axis of resistance, and the nuclear program fit into Iran's broader strategy of using proxy conflicts to advance its interests. Rather than engaging in direct state-on-state warfare with more powerful adversaries like the United States or even regional rivals like Saudi Arabia, Iran has mastered the art of asymmetric warfare. It leverages its network of partners Hezbollah, Hamas, Shia militias in Iraq, and the Houthis in Yemen to fight its battles for it. This strategy has several advantages. It provides plausible deniability, allowing Iran to advance its agenda while avoiding direct retaliation. It is cost-effective, bleeding its rivals' resources at a fraction of the cost of conventional war. And most importantly, it has been remarkably successful. Through this strategy, Iran has managed to carve out a vast sphere of influence, a Shia crescent stretching from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean Sea. It has successfully countered American influence in Iraq, saved its key ally in Syria, bogged down Saudi Arabia and Yemen, and established a powerful deterrent against Israel on its northern border. Iran has positioned itself as an indispensable power broker in the region. Every major conflict and political negotiation in the Middle East now has to account for Iran's interests and influence. While this strategy has made Iran a formidable regional power, it has also come at a tremendous cost, fueling sectarian tensions, devastating entire countries, and keeping the region in a perpetual state of conflict and instability. This is the complex and often dangerous reality of Iran's role in the geopolitics of the modern Middle East. Thank you for watching, and be sure to follow for the next part of our series. In the vast and tumultuous landscape of modern Middle Eastern history, few figures cast as long a shadow as General al-Ariza. His story is not just one of a soldier, but a saga intertwined with the very destiny of a nation and a region, perpetually on the brink. To understand the man, we must first return to the crucible that forged him. The brutal, grinding battlefields of the Iran-Iraq War, the 1980s. A decade defined by one of the 20th century's longest and most devastating conventional wars. Amidst the chaos of trench warfare and chemical attacks, a young al-Reza first made his mark. He wasn't a product of a prestigious military academy. He was a child of the revolution, his command honed by instinct and survival. In the dusty, blood-soaked plains of Khuzestan, he learned his first lessons in warfare. He saw firsthand how ideology could fuel a fighting force, how human wave tactics could overwhelm superior firepower, and how the concept of martyrdom could be weaponized. His contemporaries remember him not as a reckless commander, but as a meticulous planner. Even in his youth, he studied the enemy, he learned their weaknesses, and he understood the power of asymmetric warfare long before it became a common term. While his peers saw only the immediate battle, al-Reza saw the larger chessboard. He recognized that the fight was not just for territory, but for influence. for the soul of the region. These formative years instilled in him a deep-seated belief that Iran's survival depended on its ability to project power beyond its borders, creating a buffer zone of friendly proxies and strategic depth. This philosophy, born in the trenches, would become the cornerstone of his entire military career. The Iran-Iraq War ended not with a decisive victory, but a bitter stalemate. Yet, for Alireza, the war never truly ended. It simply evolved. The years passed. The world changed. The Soviet Union fell. The United States became the sole superpower, and the Middle East was reshaped by new conflicts. Through it all, Alireza quietly rose through the ranks. He was the architect of Iran's shadow wars, the master puppeteer pulling strings from Lebanon to Yemen. His name became whispered in the intelligence circles of Tel Aviv, Riyadh, and Washington. He was the ghost in the machine, the unseen hand guiding the region's geopolitical currents. By the early 2020s, the simmering conflict between Iran and its chief adversary, Israel, had reached a boiling point. It was a war fought not in open battlefields, but in the shadows with targeted assassinations and proxy skirmishes. Each side tested the other's red lines, pushing the region closer to an all-out confrontation. News reports from this era paint a grim picture. A mysterious explosion at a sensitive Iranian nuclear facility, a cyber attack crippling Israeli infrastructure, an Iranian-backed militia launching rockets from Syria, a tit-for-tat escalation that seemed to have no end. Behind the scenes, in heavily fortified war rooms, Alireza was at the center of the storm. He saw the escalating tensions not as a crisis, but as an opportunity. He believed that Israel, and by extension its powerful American ally, could be deterred. His strategy was one of calculated escalation, a complex dance of provocation and denial designed to keep his enemies off balance. He believed he could manage the chaos he was creating. Then came the year 2025. What began as a localized border skirmish quickly spiraled out of control. Miscalculation. Miscalculation. A strike on a Havali Iranian asset was met with an unprecedented barrage of missiles targeting key Israeli military installations. Israel's response was swift and devastating. The world watched in horror as the conflict, dubbed the 12-Day War, erupted. It was no longer a shadow war. It was real. It was bloody. And it was expanding. Maps in newsrooms lit up, showing a conflict that now stretched from the Mediterranean coast to the Persian Gulf. Iranian proxies, long nurtured by Alireza, were activated. Hezbollah in the north, militias in Syria and Iraq. The Houthis in the South joined the fray, creating a multi-front war that Israel had long feared. The region was a tinderbox, and Alireza had just struck the match. He had wanted to prove Iran's strength, to redraw the lines of deterrence, but in doing so, he had crossed a threshold from which there was no return. The world was now on a direct path to a wider, more catastrophic war. The winter of 2026 arrived with a chilling sense of inevitability. The 12-Day War had ended in a tense ceasefire, but everyone knew it was merely a pause. The international community's frantic diplomatic efforts had failed to de-escalate the situation. The rhetoric from all sides grew more extreme. For the United States and Israel, General Alireza was no longer just an adversary. He was the personification of Iran's regional ambitions, a threat that had to be neutralized. The decision was made at the highest levels. The strategy of containment had failed. It was time for a decisive blow. The operation was a stunning display of military coordination. Under the cover of darkness, waves of advanced stealth bombers and fighter jets streaked across the sky. Their targets were not just military bases or proxy forces, but the very heart of the command structure that Alireza had built over decades. Cruise missiles launched from naval vessels in the Persian Gulf and the Mediterranean flew towards their designated coordinates. The strikes were precise, overwhelming, and devastating. They targeted command and control centers, intelligence hubs, and the secret bunkers where Iran's top military leadership directed their operations. The world held its breath as initial reports of massive explosions across Iran began to surface. Then came the announcement that sent shockwaves across the globe. A brief, somber statement from Tehran's state media confirmed the news. General Alireza was dead. He had been killed in a precision strike on his command post. The architect of Iran's grand strategy, the man who had shaped the Middle East for a generation, was gone. In Tel Aviv and Washington, there was a sense of grim satisfaction, a belief that a great danger had been removed. But in the streets of Tehran, Beirut, and Damascus, there was fury and a vow of revenge. The immediate impact was chaos. The intricate network of proxies that Al-Arisa had so carefully managed was thrown into disarray. Without his guiding hand, the region plunged into even greater instability. His death did not end the conflict. It created a power vacuum, unleashing forces that were even less predictable and potentially more dangerous. The man was gone, but the ideology he championed, the conflicts he stoked, and the cycle of violence he perpetuated remained. The death of General Al-Arisa was not the end of the story. It was merely the end of a chapter, a tragic climax, in a conflict with no clear victor and no end in sight, leaving behind a legacy of fire and a region forever changed. Thank you for watching. If you found this documentary insightful, please like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the figures and events that shape our world. For over 3 decades, one man has stood at the helm of Iran, a figure whose influence has shaped not just a nation, but the entire geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. His rule began with the promise of upholding a sacred covenant, a continuation of the revolutionary ideals that had shaken the world. He was presented as a spiritual guide, a father figure to the nation. But as the years turned into decades, a different picture began to emerge for many, both inside and outside Iran. The image of a benevolent leader started to clash with accusations of an iron-fisted, authoritarian rule. Today, we're taking a deep dive into this complex legacy. How will history remember him? As the guardian of a revolution, or as a ruler who clung to power while his nation yearned for change? This isn't just about one man, it's about the story of modern Iran. Let's peel back the layers. To understand his legacy, we have to look at the Iran he inherited versus the Iran of today. We're talking about massive socioeconomic and demographic shifts. When he came to power, Iran was still reeling from a long and devastating war with Iraq. The population was young, and the economy was in turmoil. Fast forward to now, Iran is a country with a highly educated, tech-savvy youth population, a generation that has grown up with the internet and has aspirations that often seem at odds with the state's rigid ideology. We've seen periods of economic sanctions that have crippled industries, leading to widespread hardship and discontent. Yet, we've also seen surprising resilience and innovation, particularly in sectors like technology and science. This period has been a paradox. A story of a society modernizing and a youth bulge pushing for more freedom, all happening under a leadership that has consistently resisted fundamental change. The social contract, if there ever was one, feels strained to its breaking point. The gap between the rulers and the ruled has, in many ways, defined his era. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Succession. What happens next? This is the billion-dollar question that keeps diplomats and analysts up at night. For a system built so heavily around one central figure, the question of who follows is monumental. It's not just a matter of domestic politics. It's a question with enormous geopolitical implications. Will the transition be smooth? A carefully managed handover to a chosen successor? Or will it unleash a power struggle within the complex factions of the Iranian establishment? The contenders are there, jockeying for position behind the scenes, from hardline clerics to powerful figures within the Revolutionary Guards. Any instability at the top could send shockwaves across the region. Think about Iran's role in Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, and Yemen. A change in leadership could dramatically alter these dynamics, for better or for worse. The world is watching, because the future of Iran's nuclear program, its relationship with the West, and its regional ambitions all hang in the balance. This isn't just a domestic issue, it's a global one. The succession question is perhaps the most critical and uncertain part of his legacy. So, what is the long-term verdict on his rule? It's a story of contradictions. On one hand, he has successfully maintained the revolutionary system's grip on power for decades, navigating immense internal and external pressures. From a certain perspective, that is a remarkable feat of political survival. He has kept the ship afloat through sanctions, protests, and regional conflicts. He has overseen Iran's development into a significant regional power with considerable military and scientific capabilities. But on the other hand, What has been the cost? A generation of young Iranians feels disconnected from their government, their economic prospects dimmed by isolation and mismanagement. The dream of the revolution has, for many, soured into a reality of repression and limited opportunity. His rule has created a nation at a crossroads. Will Iran continue down the path of ideological rigidity and confrontation, or will the immense pressure for change from within finally force a new direction? The answer to that question will be his ultimate legacy. It's not just about the past 3 decades, it's about the next 3, and the path Iran will carve for itself in the 21st century. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. These are complex issues with no easy answers, and it's crucial we continue to discuss and understand them. If you found this analysis insightful, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay informed.